It is March 25, 2015. I'm Rene Ritchie, and right now we're going to talk about the new Macs, Apple TV rumors, Fantasticals, photo accessories, Apple Watches, and more. This is the iMore Show. Joining me this week, we have Ali Kazmuha. How are you doing, Ali?
I'm doing awesome.
You are doing awesome. That is a very accurate description of you.
If only it would get warmer out. I'm thinking spring is going to come in never days.
No, the winter is coming. Summer is not coming.
Yeah, you guys don't really get a spring or summer, though, do you?
We do. It gets super hot, so it's not as super cold.
There are bugs.
Also stuck in the winter, we have Svenity Caldwell. How are you, Ren?
I'm good. It's 48 degrees today. Which, to your Canadians, it's like 4 or 5.
It's not Canadians. It's everyone else in the world except for Americans, right?
Yeah, Canadians.
Yes. No, I'm doing okay. I'm recovering from a terrible cold, so if I sound weird today, that is why. But otherwise, I'm rocking out. You know, catching up on some stuff. I'm back in the States, so I'm appreciative of that.
You were roller derbying it in Toronto.
I was roller derbying in Toronto. We lost by 4 points.
My whole family ended up watching because I saw your link. I pressed on it. I was gonna just look for a second, but then my mom's like, "No, keep it on. This is amazing." And then she was like cheering along and stuff, and it was.
That's
Which
awesome.
one's Serenity? Which one's Serenity? And like that one who just hit that other lady and made her fly.
I think I only did that once. I probably got a penalty for it. But yeah, it was good times. But I'm glad to be back home. Yeah, things are good.
And we also have with us the mellifluous voice of Peter Cohen. How are you, Peter?
Good. How are you, Rene?
Good. I saw you spreading rumors on the interwebs that Apple's new Japanese facility is for the creation of Apple Kaiju.
Well, no, of Apple Mecha more specifically, but I do think that they're doing a breeding research program on Kaiju.
You know, if things pan out the way I think they do, Google's going to have the Kaiju and Apple's going to have the Mecha.
It could very well be.
Yeah, Pacific Rim is going to be a lot more interesting than we thought it was going to be.
I guess the question is, who's going to get the Ed robot from RoboCop?
Ed 2, yeah, things went bad, Peter, but they didn't go Ed 209 bad.
They didn't go to Ed 209 bad. You're absolutely right, Rene.
All right, so big week. We have a lot to cover. I'm going to start off with Peter because you've been updating all the MacBook buyer's guides with Broadwell and MacBooks. How's that going?
Well, I think it's going pretty well. You know, the of course, anticipation is killing all of us. People want to be able to pre-order the MacBook. People want to get their hands on it. They want to see other people like us get our hands on it so we can talk all about it. So there's a lot of anticipation for this new product, and I'm sure it's going to be in pretty short supply when it first hits stores on April 10th. But in advance of that, we've certainly tried to give you some good information that you can use to compare what you're actually getting under the hood of the MacBook compared to the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro, and what that really means, you know, in terms of user experience. Definitely try to contextualize it because we, you know, don't want you to just think it's all about the numbers, because it's not. You know, the MacBook is an entirely new class of computer, and it's very exciting to see come forth.
So one of my questions was, a lot of people were asking us why the 15-inch MacBook Pro didn't get updated. My understanding is that there's no Broadwell chip that fits that yet, and that's sort of the narrative for 2015 Macs. You could really call it waiting for Broadwell.
Well, you know, there's been this sort of waiting for Godot game that we've been playing with Intel now for a while. Ever since Haswell chips first hit the market, we sort of been expecting to see Intel move faster than it was. Broadwell was a very difficult transition for it because getting Broadwell chips into production meant having to develop a new way of manufacturing for Intel that they just weren't accustomed to before on a much
low yield rates.
I'm sorry?
14 nanometer process and low yield rates.
14 nanometer process and low yield rates, exactly right. You know, we're talking about really delicate microengineering to actually develop circuitry that small, and it's amazing that Intel or anyone can do it at all, really. But anyway, the transitions happened, and Broadwell stuff is in production, but the Broadwell chips that we need to see in 15-inch MacBook Pros aren't going to be out until later this year. So, we'll get a MacBook Pro refresh sometime in 2015. I'm certain of it, but the 15-inch model just really, it's just a matter of time. As far as the Broadwell chip that's inside the new MacBook, and actually inside the new MacBook Air as well, that it's very hard to quantify how exactly that experience is going to be compared to in the MacBook compared to what we can do now on PCs using that device or using that same processor. And I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but you start using a 2-in-1 device like a convertible, a lot of people are thinking that they can extrapolate what that means in using a MacBook. Now, Renee, you and Ren have both gotten your hands on the new MacBook. Wouldn't you say that it's a different experience than using a 2-in-1 convertible?
I'll let Ren, as Fernie spent, I think, more time with it than I did, but my quick take, just based on what you said, is also this is Broadwell-Y, as far as I know, which is different in kind than the Broadwell chips that we've seen in other PC-based laptops. And like you said, it's really apple and oranges. But I think you put it through its paces, Ren.
Yeah, I mean, from my limited testing with it, I thought it was quite robust. Again, I haven't had a chance to run anything serious business on it, and I'm sure we'll do that when we get our testing units. But I really don't see a problem in terms of for people who want to use it for daily usage. I think it's certainly better than a convertible.
So I have questions for all you guys because you have such range of expertise, and I'll start with you, Ren. MacBook versus MacBook Air versus MacBook Pro. Where would you steer people right now?
I think it honestly depends on what they're looking for. If it's Again, I'm taking this from former Apple Store employee perspective. So if someone came in the store and they're like, I need a laptop, my first question would be, well, what do you do with your laptops? What are you looking to do? Are you looking to travel? Are you looking to do schoolwork? Are you looking to do video editing? And once you kind of get
use.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, use case I think is going to be a really big thing. I think in general, the Air is still a fantastic starter machine and a fantastic travel machine for people who don't have a super budget. But it is lacking the Force Touch trackpad. So if people want kind of like the latest and greatest, and they're also looking for a bit of power behind them, then I'm probably going to steer them towards the 13-inch MacBook Pro. If people want the latest and greatest and have infinite budget and want to travel, the MacBook's probably the machine to buy. If they want a good budget laptop that may not have the absolute latest and greatest, but will still be a fantastic machine for several years, the MacBook Air is the way to go. The 15-inch MacBook Pro, I'm kind of waving forlornly at because I really don't think that it's a good upgrade machine for anyone until it does get upgraded with the Broadwell chips.
Yeah, no, I think I would say exactly the same thing. Ali, you like me, you switch between Airs and Pros a lot. Is the MacBook compelling to you at all?
You know, when Apple first announced it on stage, I think I was like, my eyes were really wide and I was like, shiny. And then reality set in and it's not the computer for me. I think Derek wrote an editorial on that. And it's not the computer for everyone. I don't think that it would make sense for me to replace my current Air with it, but it's going to make sense for a lot of people that don't need to do anything but browse online and organize photos and do normal people things. But if you're relying on SD cards and cables and, that it's not for you. So I would say at this point, wait. If that MacBook is not for you, I would say at this point, wait. If you can wait, wait.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think, Peter, this is where, I depend on you for these things. You were talking about Broadwell before, but, Intel keeps insisting that unlike Broadwell, Skylake is on time. And that could mean Skylake starts arriving while Broadwell is still deploying. Is it worth getting Broadwell now, or is it worth waiting for Skylake later?
Well, that's a question that Apple's engineers have to ask, not us. And I guess we'll find out the answer to that. But a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. And Skylake is coming, but Skylake is not here. Broadwell is here and rolling out throughout the year. And I think Intel's probably got a better sense of its own production than anyone else does. So I trust that they understand how to manage that rollout side by side without causing too much disruption in the marketplace.
Yeah, and there are tangible benefits, right? Like Broadwell is a smaller process, so it is theoretically more power efficient. I believe the graphics are better. I'm not sure how the architecture is. This the TIC, and then Skylake is the architectural talk. I forget how that works.
So Skylake is a new architecture.
Okay.
Broadwell is based on what Haswell introduced.
Yeah.
So that from that perspective, we see a continuation in the same, or a continuum from Haswell to Broadwell. We see better efficiency. We see better graphics. We see we see a different manufacturing technology. It's all in that continuum. Skylake is when we'll get stuff like Thunderbolt 3, for example. A lot of people are wondering when Apple's going to come out with a Thunderbolt 5K display. Well, in order to do that, you would actually have to have a system interface with enough bandwidth to manage that kind of image, and that will be when Skylake is here. So that's going to have some major architectural improvements.
So one of the things that people ask us a lot is, there's this whole myth about Rev A boards. Even people who work at Apple will say, always be careful of Rev A boards, always be careful of Gen 1. People will say, I always wait on Gen 2. And I think absolutely historically you can find facts that will support that argument. But I'm saying this as someone who bought the very first MacBook Air, who bought the first iPhone, bought the first iPad, is going to buy the first Apple Watch. I like getting the future now. I know it's not perfect. I know it's a work in progress. I like to be part of that work in progress. And yeah, it costs some money, but I feel like I get the future faster. And I realize not everybody has the money to buy things all the time, and some people really want to keep it for 5 years, and that might change the equation. But Ren, how do you feel? Is there any advantage to sort of getting the latest and greatest?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you said, where there's an appeal to being first on the block and being able to play with technology even though it's buggy. That's why so many people have developer accounts and play around with developer betas even though they know that their computer or their phone is going to crash, because they want the new features. They want to be able to use, extensions and crazy stuff like that. Before everybody else. Is it going to be perfect? No. Does it require a bit of a premium buy-in? Yeah, because you're buying first-generation technology. But you're also, if you look at it from not necessarily a philanthropic point of view, but you are, by buying a Gen 1, you are helping fund the development for subsequent versions. I know Apple probably doesn't need that money to fund their R&D, but there are other companies who definitely do. So it's like, if you're an early adopter, you don't necessarily need to think about it as, I'm just wasting my money on early technology. It's like I'm putting in the money to actually see what the future is going to be like earlier and potentially help the future develop.
Yeah, I want that I want to try USB-C. I want to try an ultra-thin Retina display. I want to see what that double speed. Peter, those results for the SSDs on this new generation of computers it's Speed Force fast.
Yeah, it's definitely impressive.
So so I guess also, and Ali, you have to recommend this stuff to a lot of friends and family as well. I would just tell someone that if they've always wanted a Mac that was more like an iPad, or an iPad that was more like a Mac, but they don't need heavy-duty stuff, if they just want to travel around with it, go to the coffee shop with it, if they want ultra-fast I/O, and all they really do plug in is a power cord, I would recommend this computer still.
Yeah, I would agree with that. With family and friends, I kind of always base my recommendations too on what kind of person they are technologically, because I have some friends that don't want to spend that much money on a computer, and they're fine browsing the refurb and clearance section on Apple. They don't care if it's the newest computer or the fastest computer, because they don't need that. So sometimes, if I know it's someone that's going to be really upset if they buy a Mac today and then find out that Apple released something new tomorrow, those are the people that I would tell, don't buy a computer. And then maybe the person sitting next to them, no, you're fine. You go look in the refurb section, you're fine. So it's kind of it's a person-to-person basis, I think. And for most people right now, at this point, if you can wait, I still would.
Yeah, we get
and
that
you get a better deal.
Yeah, we get that question on Twitter a lot. Like, should I buy now or should I wait? And I always give the same answer. And let me know if anyone disagrees. But my usual answer is if you absolutely have to have something now, buy now and have no regrets because there's always going to be something better. But if you can wait, wait as long as you can and then buy whatever you need because, again, you'll always get better value for your money, but there will always be something new.
Well, and this is an
Exactly
interesting. This like or early spring, late spring is always kind of that period I think for Macs. And if you want a good deal, sometimes waiting benefits you too because obviously the current generation of whatever Apple has is going to go on sale or they're going to drop the price by a couple $100. So if you want a better deal, it's in your best interest to wait too.
But I'm spending extra $200 to get it now, Allie. I'm getting like 6 extra months for that money.
Well, you're one of those people that you know you're going to go to the Apple store today after this podcast and buy a new computer. So
every day.
Don't ask me.
All right. So transitioning from Mac to iOS, we did our roundtable on iOS 8. It's been 6 months since Apple released it, which I think is like 9 months since the original beta hit at WWDC 2014 back in June, and it's definitely changed. We've gone from the beta to iOS 8 to iOS 8.1 to iOS 8.2, which is live now and has all the fancy watch infrastructure. And iOS 8.3 is now in beta. There's been some bug fixes. There's been some stability improvements. Let's just go around the room and get a general sense of it. And I'll start with you, Allie, because you're always on my left. How is iOS 8 treating you 6 months later?
I think iOS 8 has introduced some of the things that I use most every day. There are more features in iOS 8 that I actually use than any other iOS release ever, but there's also more bugs in iOS 8 than I've ever experienced in any other version of iOS. So I'm happy with it, but I'm not happy with it, if that makes any sense. When it works, I'm happy, and when it's not, and when it doesn't, I'm sad.
Allie, iOS Facebook relationship status it's complicated.
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, that's my feelings in a nutshell.
I understand the bugs, but the bugs to me are like, and I forget who said that. It might have been Jason Snell, but it's the 1,000 cuts. Like iOS 7 to me just resprang all the time, and there were a few other things, but it was mostly the resprings, and that's a big thing. Like it's in your face, going, I have to wait a second to use my phone. iOS 8 doesn't have anything that I would classify as that major of a bug, but there's all these little sort of things that you just get little nicks and scratches from all day long.
Yeah, it's. Go ahead, Allie.
I think it's been different for everyone. I know a lot of people have issues deleting apps, and I have that issue consistently where I go to delete an app and I tap that X and my phone freezes. And I have to sit there and wait for like 10 to 20 seconds until the delete app dialog pops up, and then I can delete, and then it just continues to do that over and over and over again. So I don't know. I didn't have that many issues with iOS 7, so I don't know where the deficit is.
Sarah, and you were going to say?
Oh, I was just commenting on your spiel, Renee. I think iOS 8 has gotten a lot better in recent updates, but there's still little bugs. There's still the fact that Spotlight half of the time when I go to enter in something, it shows blanks, and or apps randomly crashing, or maps giving me strange data. Like, they're just little bits here and there that are frustrating. Personal hotspot not always working 100% of the time, and I really wish that they would have been 100% right off the bat, but I know that's not always possible. I mean, as we know, Apple's working on a lot of things and has a lot of engineers, but they have made a concerted effort to try and clean the OS up, and I'm kind of hoping that they continue that in the months and weeks to come.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, iOS 8.2 was mostly iOS 8.1 with the watch stuff added, and the watch team did a lot of that. And iOS 8.3 takes everything that the iOS team has been doing and sort of merges that back into all the watch stuff that was done, and that's in beta now. And it's Peter, what's your take? I know you really like the continuity features and things like that, but has it changed at all? Is it better than it was before? Is it more annoying? How has 6 months changed it at all, if at all?
Certainly, Apple's been gradually consistently improving iOS 8 from build to build. I certainly have a lot of frustrations with Yosemite, and some with iOS 8 as well. And Ren talked about a few of the things that really drive me crazy, that really affect my ability to get work done when I expect it to. But it is what it is, and I think I just hope that this is an opportunity for Apple to sort of get out the last of the things that are causing problems and get it as solid as they possibly can before they start doing another major revision.
Yeah, and they've been doing a lot of stability and bug fixes in iOS 8.3, especially because again 8.2 is the watch stuff. 8.3 is a lot of those sort of fixes stuff. But I think that extensibility and continuity were such major changes. I think especially extensibility, and it introduced a level of complexity and the ability to do things like the ability to take a view from one app and remotely place it into the system or into another app. And that was done in a year, and I think there is a lot of tidying up to be done, but I'm also really happy that we got that functionality. And some people have said we're in this cycle where there'll be a big change one year and then stability the next year, but we had two big changes in a row. We had the big design change with 7 and then the big functionality change with 8. And I think those two things had to be done to get to the point where we are, where there will be things like the Apple Watch and CarPlay and HomeKit and all these things that depend so much on those technologies. And iOS 9 is rumored quite a bit to have a lot of features that were still pending. Didn't make it into iOS 7 or 8. We're supposed to make it into iOS 9. Some of that has been pushed off to give them time to work on sort of the stability and performance stuff. So I think we'll get that. But this whole Snow Leopard myth, Peter and I were talking about this yesterday. Snow Leopard was a huge change. I mean, it had OpenCL, it had Grand Central, it had Exchange support. It was just a guy in marketing came up with a slogan: no user-facing features. And entirely not true, but a brilliant way to sell Snow Leopard. Got Steve Jobs to do it. And I think we'll see very similar to that with iOS 9, where it's focused on stability and performance, but the things that need to get added and things that need to be fixed do you get that feeling too, Ren, sort of kind of coexist together?
Yeah, I think it does have to be sort of building blocks, right? Where there's only so much you can do on the iOS platform without having to kind of work on the Mac as well.
Yeah, and that part, and Peter mentioned this in his review. That part, I've started taking it for granted. When handoff or SMS relay happens, it's become the norm for me. It's become something that I expect. And then on the rare occasions, because for me it's really solid, but on the rare occasions when it doesn't work, it's like being kicked out of hyperspace by a tractor beam. I don't know where I am and I don't know what happened. And when I use family's computers, who aren't running OS 10, and I'm like, I don't know how to move things anymore. It's sort of what's that saying, Peter? When the magical becomes a commonplace. It's a weird thing for me. Like Peter's answering phone calls on his Mac all the time. Freaks me out.
Yeah, that line between or what is it that Arthur C. Clarke said about technology being
sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic.
From magic, yeah.
From magic, right? Exactly. Thank you. So there it is. And it when it works, it is a seamless experience, and it goes to what Johnny Ive has said. What I heard him say during his little recorded pieces at WWDC about making the user the user interface invisible. Yeah. You shouldn't have to worry about that sort of stuff. It should just happen. The fact that it doesn't, I'm sure, is very distressing to Ive, but to everybody at Apple. So that's something that Apple has to continue to work on.
Yeah, there's this thing and it's a legitimate criticism. Some people believe when you talk about the process itself that that's an implementation detail, that people like us, customers, shouldn't have to worry about it. It either works or it doesn't work. How it works is not important. I'm not sure I agree with that completely, because I think we suffer sometimes by the choices made in implementation. But Ali, overall, would you say iOS 8 6 months later, is it better for you? Is it worse for you? Compared to where you were 6 months into 7 or 6, if you had to bottom line it, how would you do it?
Better, definitely. There's too many features in iOS 8 that I rely on regularly, specifically like share and action extensions. I must be the only person on earth that since the beginning of iOS 8, like all of the new features work flawlessly for me. I've never had personal hotspot not show up. I've never had issues with AirDrop or continuity. The only thing I think that's kind of weird for me is sometimes if I answer my phone, my computer keeps ringing for about...
My Apple TV rings. Yeah. I'm AirPlaying and people call me.
Yeah. So I've had that happen, but I mean, other than that, I know a lot of people have had issues, but mine are more the little bugs and annoyances on a daily basis are, I think, what gets me. But overall, I wouldn't trade that to go back and not have the features that Apple put in there because they're awesome, and I think they've taken iOS to a completely different level.
What about you, Ren?
I couldn't find my remote. I absolutely agree with Allie. I think that the innovations that have gone forward in iOS 8 are totally worth the momentary buggies and hiccups. I really love extensibility. I love Notification Center. Personal Hotspot, when it works, is fantastic. Apple Pay is seamless and has been from the beginning. I'll give them credit for a technology that would have been very bad if it had any bugs in it. They managed to make that as easy a process as possible, which is really awesome. The ongoing, passbook being even better. The messages improvements to, being able to do not disturb individual messages and being able to do group messages and name group messages. There's still things that Apple needs to fix, but overall, I'm very happy with the improvements that they put into iOS 8.
What about you, Peter?
I think that iOS 8 is fantastic, except if you're using an edge case device that just really shouldn't be running iOS 8, like me and my third generation iPad. There are a small number of devices that just really have no business running iOS 8. Everything else that's within that target audience of viable machines, I think, is fantastic. I think there's no reason at all why you shouldn't try to get the maximum benefit out of it that you can, especially if you're a Mac user. It's so exciting, the continuity features, and it's using these devices in more efficient ways to get stuff done. I love, and it's what Apple does best.
Yeah, for me, and I've said this repeatedly, it's a totally transformative experience. It very much took what was a pull interface and made it a push interface. I no longer have to press the home button, go through this home screen, search for an app, go in there, take a photo, go to one editing app, go to another editing app, go to a social app to share it. Everything that used to be a lot of work, now it just comes to me. I take a photo, I can share it right from there. Anything that I want, almost any functionality, I can pull down Notification Center, have widgets right there. Do a quick calculation right there. I just don't have to go hunt and peck around my phone anymore. And we've always had data sync. I've always been able to have my emails on all my devices. But now if I start writing an email, I not only sync the data, I sync the state of my activity. I can go to another machine and that email is there, even if I didn't save it as a draft. It's the app that I was using is open. The piece of content I was working on is open. The place I was working at it on is there. And again, it became commonplace for me, and I didn't even think about it. And then I stopped to think about how I wasn't even thinking about it. And I think in a couple of years from now, we're going to look back and see just what an incredible sea change iOS 8 was. And yes, there was a lot of pain that came with it. But like Ali said, that pain, at least we've gotten some good results from it. And I'm very much looking forward to it stabilizing and being taken forward. Like we still don't have continuity for music. I want to be able to get up and walk away, and my playlist just automatically goes to another machine. Or I'm watching on my Apple TV, and I have to leave the room, and the movie I'm watching just goes to my iPhone. Just having that sort of extensibility and continuity everywhere, I think that's the future, and I'm glad we're sort of starting it off.
Oh man, I want that so much. There are hardware that already have those features, but they aren't Apple hardware, and they aren't. It's not iTunes that's connected to that kind of thing. I'm really, really hoping that we see that in iOS 9.
And on that note, I am going to take a quick break, and we are going to thank one of our sponsors, and that sponsor is lynda.com. Lynda.com is for problem solvers. It's for the curious. It's for people who want to make things happen. It is, maybe you want to excel at Excel. Maybe you want to learn negotiation tactics, build a website, boost your Photoshop skills. All you have to do is go to lynda.com and feed your curious mind. Or as I like to say, just jack straight into the matrix and say, I need to know Kung Fu. And it basically works as the closest physical approximation to that. They have a bunch of new recommended courses, everything from Excel to Office. If you want to go paperless, they have iPhone and iPad security fundamentals. Right now they have, income tax, which makes me shudder just reading it, but it's there and it's important. I've been using, I know I've been saying this for over a year, but I finally made the switch to editing the podcasts in Logic Pro. And the thing I like most about Lynda is, yes, you can go through the entire courses, and it's really good to do that. But if you just have a question, everything is broken down to these little bite-sized bits. You can just go in and find answers to those specific questions and have experts, the best people who actually use this stuff in real life to make monies, tell you how it all works. And it's, I know you guys have been using lynda.com too, right, Peter?
I do indeed, yeah. I've used lynda.com many times over the years and always found it to be a terrific resource.
Yeah, it's just absolutely phenomenal. I cannot recommend it more highly. So what we've done, we've spoken to them, and they will give you unlimited access to training on hundreds of topics, all for one flat rate. And 100 topics, that equals thousands and thousands of videos. Whether you're looking to become an industry expert, you're passionate about a hobby, or you just want to learn something new, I want you to visit lynda.com/iMore. You can sign up for a free 10-day trial. That is longer than a week. If a week feels like not enough, this will feel like I don't even think it'll make it through the week. I think you're going to actually sign up much faster than that. That's lynda.com/iMore, lynda.com/iMore. I love Lynda. Thank you. All right, so a little bit of follow-up, to go along with Trinity's point is we sort of spoke out loud. We wondered, coincidentally enough, about the future of Apple TV. I think it was last week or the week before. And now there's rumors again that box, pretty much as we described it, is going to launch pretty much when we thought it would. And I think that sort of stuff, if you're not familiar with Apple TV, it's actually run out of Eddie Q's organization. It's not run the same way that iPhones and iPads are run, and it's subject to a lot more content pressure and other factors compared to an iPhone or an iPad. But having that device ready to come out, and apparently having the SDK ready to come out with it, Trinity, I'm like, I don't even know what I want yet. I know games are obvious, but I don't know how apps are going to run on my TV, but I know that I want them.
Yeah, I mean, I really think you have to think about the future of the Apple TV and the Apple TV apps on what a big screen in your living room really means to you. Is it something where you're going to focus primarily on content? So is it going to be, news, television, movies, music? Games is a great example. But there's also potential. We've seen things like Panic Status Board, for instance, which currently runs as an iOS app on the iPad. But Status Board is essentially designed to tether an iPad to a big giant screen, where it shows, it allows you to add all kinds of different widgets that track either page views for writers, or the weather, or who's being productive in the office. It's a really cool app that I feel like could have a lot of play on something like an Apple TV, where you just think about, again, like, these are big screens that aren't attached to desks, that are usually in our living rooms or in our offices. And I think we have to think a little bit outside the box in terms of what those apps are going to look like.
Yeah, and there was that deal, well, not a deal yet, but that announcement, Peter, from Nintendo that they're going to start licensing or making IP for mobile platforms. And I know it's a wonderful, terrible dream, but I'm very much in the Guy English camp. If I just want a Nintendo made-for-iPhone controller that hooks up to my Apple TV and lets me play my Nintendo stuff on, a really popular platform.
Yes.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting that. I don't think it'll ever happen, but it's nice to dream. If beggars or what was it? If wishes were horses, then beggars would ride, as they say. I'm excited about the Nintendo news myself. I think that it's great, and we'll see. We'll ultimately see how that plays out. As far as game controllers and Apple TV, I think there's a lot to be said for that, because whenever I show somebody a new Apple TV in the store, one of their first questions is, how do I play games on that? They want to be able to play games. I show them that they can after a fashion, from their, iPhone or iPad, or even from their Macintosh. But it really, you've got to give them reasonable expectations for how it's going to happen, because it's not a simultaneous or instantaneous thing.
Yeah, I mean, Ali, you have, 19 Apple TVs now? What are you looking for in an update?
3, but okay. I don't know. I really, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I just want to finally give Comcast the finger and not have to have cable.
Who
and
wouldn't?
I can't do that until Showtime has something like what HBO announced, or I'll have a very angry girlfriend. So basically, I'm paying $160 a month for Showtime.
Is that Glee?
So-
What's on Showtime? I'm not familiar with the
Oh,
American channels.
we watch a bunch of stuff on Showtime. Penny Dreadful. I don't remember what's on
I'm
HBO and
guessing it's all
Showtime because we
Glee.
have
It's like a
both.
Glee network.
I mix up what HBO and Showtime's original things are, but we watch a bunch. Shameless, I think, is Showtime. We watch a bunch of stuff on there and that's like HBO and Showtime are mainly 90% of what we watch series-wise.
House of Lies. They had Dexter. I mean, Showtime's just kicking it with the series.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, I know. You see, that content stuff is interesting to me because HBO Now is an American-only thing, so international people. I think several countries asked about it and got laughed at. So that would make it absolutely more compelling in the U.S. But I think everyone else has to sort of content themselves with, hey, look, a Cyclone processor, metal, an SDK.
We're gonna watch Showtime while you play games. That's what's gonna happen.
There we go. Yeah, Renee, you bring up a really good point that I don't think gets nearly enough press because so much of the press is U.S.-centric. Apple TV in other countries is a very different experience
Yeah.
than in the States, isn't it?
Yeah, and Canada it has it better than a lot of countries. But it's not just Apple TV. I mean, Netflix has substantially less content. Amazon provides almost nothing here. Google just started providing content here. But for people in many countries, iTunes is their only option, and iTunes has I have to basically wait till a Canadian network picks up a show before it'll hit iTunes, and it's just a horrible process that I hope gets hit by the equivalent of a meteorite, becomes extinct, and new wonderful technologies take its place for the good of mankind.
Yeah,
Not because
absolutely.
It's spiteful. Yes, we should see that around WWDC. We're also, of course, iOS 9, OS 10, 10.11, probably some of the new services stuff. That's coming up fast. That's June, which is now actually scary to me that it's coming up that fast. But we have plenty still to worry about right here, right now. Ali, you looked at the new version of Fantastical for Mac, Fantastical 2.
I did.
like
I've
the
been
Boogaloo.
using it for, I don't know, since maybe beginning of February, somewhere around there. And it's awesome. You can obviously read my review, but I mean, it's not just in the menu bar anymore. It's a full-blown calendar app. So before it kind of acted as a companion app. So you could do things to quickly get things done from the menu bar. You could use universal shortcut keys, but if you needed to do some deep calendaring or actually view things extensively, you would have to launch the calendar app that came with OS 10. When I asked Michael Simmons what made them pull it from the menu bar, he said that basically the first version was a way to fix what was wrong with iCal, and this version was to fix what was wrong with Fantastical. So it's kind of come full circle. I'm really happy with it. I would say that the only two things that I would like to see in an update would be, right now, if you get an event invite, you don't get a notification for that on the Mac version. It works on an iPhone and iPad, but you don't get those on Mac. And then I believe there was one other thing, but I don't remember what it was, so must not have been that
Was
important.
it a way not only to prevent Facebook birthdays from showing up, but to blow up the Facebook birthday system entirely?
Mine doesn't do that. I've heard a lot of people complain about that in all calendar apps, and I've never had a Facebook birthday show up, so I don't know what
Really?
you people are doing. No.
Do you have Facebook invite, like Facebook events show up?
No, I don't let Facebook have access to any of my crap. So maybe
That would be why.
yeah, like I have it. My account's linked in system settings, but like everything is turned off. So I don't really let it have access to anything except like if I choose to post a photo, I can do that.
Nice. Fernanda, do you like the calendar sets?
Yes, calendar sets is something that I've been asking for years from calendar apps, which essentially just lets you organize your various calendars into folders, and then you can turn on a folder view. So, for instance, I can keep all of my Derby calendars, of which there are many, separate from all of my work calendars, so I can actually like look at them one at a time and not feel like my entire calendar is drowning. This is also really helpful for people who have like a work calendar and then have an events calendar and it duplicates certain things. Being able to turn off that events calendar if you know that it's going to just duplicate everything onto your personal calendar is really awesome. It's a really simple, really smooth way to organize calendars, especially for people who have lots of them.
And they kind of took calendar sets to a different level with that too, with location-based calendar sets.
Yes.
You can, obviously not much of a point on a desktop computer unless you're going to take your iMac to Starbucks, which I've
Do you
heard
do that,
on
Ellie?
has been done.
Do you do that, Ellie?
Yes, sometimes, maybe. I don't want to talk about it. But you could actually turn on locations for your calendar sets, and when I get home with my MacBook Air, my home calendars will automatically pop up and hide my work calendar, so I don't have to hear Renee yelling at me through event invites. And then when I go to the coffee shop or if you go to the office, your work calendars will automatically switch to the default view. So it's not like a huge thing, but it's a really cool thing that makes managing calendars a little bit more easier, which is kind of the point.
Did you have a chance to play with it yet, Peter?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to see it jump off the menu bar finally.
It escaped like Kurt Russell from LA.
Yeah, it goes full screen now, so you can have it take over your entire display with all of your calendary goodness. And
Too many calendars.
Yeah, too many calendars. My only complaint about Fantastical is that its icon is way too similar to the Yosemite calendar app. Maybe that's by intent, but it's like a 2D version of the calendar app that Apple includes.
It's probably Simmons'
I do
ploy
not
to get
mind
you to
that.
throw it off.
Yeah.
Well,
I do not
I
mind
mean,
that at all.
I just
The
feel like it's
calendar app
trying to
is-
trick me.
well, the calendar app is slightly tilted.
It's got 9 degrees of whimsy.
That's
Yes.
right. It's slightly tilted and it's slightly more 3D.
Yeah. No, that's all
Just
Microsoft's
like-
diabolical plans.
Oddly, just like real life.
I've been trying it since beta 2, and I really like it as well. The original version of Fantastical I used a lot because, like Ali said, it was just so quick to get stuff into and to look things up on, but you would have to go, and I think Michael said this when Ali interviewed him as well, you would have to go back to the regular calendar app to do certain things, and now you don't have to do that. Like, it took a while to get used to because I'm not used to calendar being this big beefy thing on OS 10, but after a while, it's just faster to stay within Fantastical than it is to go back to the OS 10 calendar. And after a while, the OS 10 calendar is alone drinking in a bar wondering where all its friends went, but you don't really care because you got Fantastical.
There
Well,
we
and
go.
I think a lot of people sometimes overlook probably what has kept me on Fantastical compared to any other calendar app. And every quarterly or whatnot, I go through our calendar apps and revise things, and I try different things. And the natural language support in Fantastical is so much better than any other calendar app I've ever used. I can go, and it understands things that other calendar apps don't. So I can type lunch with Renee tomorrow at whenever / whatever calendar, and it switches it. I can type reminder at the beginning of something. You can literally type sentences in there, and it picks out what you're saying more accurately than any other calendar app I've used. So
If Siri's natural language interpretation was as good as Fantastical's, life would be magic.
everyone would be riding around on unicorns.
It's true.
Unicorns and lawnmowers. All right, what else did we have on our list? The watch FAQ has been updated, Serenity. That thing is just amazing.
It's massive. Well, you did the latest update for that, Renee, so I feel like you should get some of the credit. Yeah,
I just copied over the tables that I made for the buyer's guide.
Yeah, I mean, we put a lot of work into that FAQ, collecting things that we got in our discussions with Apple PR, collecting things that we've seen throughout online, that we've pulled from Apple's website. Basically, any possible thing that you would like to know about the Apple Watch, I think we have it covered.
Still waiting for you to add will it blend.
Sorry.
Not everything is covered until that's on there.
Allie, is the answer to will it blend ever no?
I don't know. I don't think it is, actually. Maybe this time it will be, though. You don't know.
Sapphire glass.
See?
Yeah, and the buyer's guide is live now, so if you have any questions about whether you should get an Apple Watch or not, what case size you should get, which strap you should get for the Sport Edition, the Apple Watch, the Edition, whether you should get Apple Care or not. We did a whole podcast last week about it, and it's all up in written form now, so just check that out. Ali, photo accessories. You put together all the must-haves?
I did. So basically, there's a lot of accessories available for iPhone that I know a lot of us around iMore use and a lot of you guys out there use. So we put together a list of just some of our favorites. So we included things like a glyph, and if you're not sure what that is, it's
Got an
basically
holoclip here. I have a glyph here somewhere
holoclip,
too.
yes. A glyph is like a little tripod mount for your iPhone, and they came out with a universal version that fits everything all the way up until, I think, the 6 Plus. So I think those run around $30. Some of the other things we included on there was what Renee just held up, the Allo Clip, which is a 4-in-1 lens attachment. It gives you 2 different macro lenses. I think it's 10 and 15 times zoom. And a wide and a fish angle lens all in one. What I like about Allo Clip is those are little enough you can stick them in a pocket or a bag or whatever and just kind of bring them out when you need them. And the new version for the 6 and 6 Plus, there's a little spacer, so you can actually, one unit is compatible with both the 6 and the 6 Plus. You just take out a little spacer and insert a different one depending on which phone you have.
I'm in sync, Allie, so here's a glyph and an Allo Clip, old generation, but still.
Ooh.
Nice. We got a gold Allo Clip.
Yeah, for the gold phone. That's how you roll.
All the gold things.
I keep saying Kardashian instead of Kardashian, but people tell me there's no difference.
No, there's probably not. No one cares. I don't remember what else we put on that list. What else did we put on there?
Oh, please, selfie sticks.
Oh, yeah, selfie
Nice
sticks.
try, Allie.
Ren's going to shake her head for anyone not seeing this live.
I'm already shaking my head, yep.
So, I mean, I did include your Bluetooth remote on there, too, if you didn't notice that. For people that are anti-selfie stick, they can sit in the corner with Ren and press buttons on Bluetooth remotes instead. So, yeah, Bluetooth shutter remote for anyone that either doesn't want a selfie stick. I actually like having those around anyway, because if you're using it with a tripod, there's a lot of cool apps in the App Store for, like, long exposures. But if you touch your phone in any way, you're going to get blur. So using a Bluetooth remote kind of prevents that. You can prop up your phone on a little tripod or on its side. I don't know, however you want to, but don't touch it. So.
I have one complaint about this list, Allie.
What?
It doesn't include an Apple Watch.
That's not out yet.
Can you buy an Apple Watch yet? Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, but it could be an aspirational accessory because it does have a remote control for the live view.
Can I link to it? I mean, I guess I could link to the FAQ.
Because you can actually put your phone somewhere and then run around and then use the Apple Watch to either trigger the shutter or to trigger the timer. So you don't have to use a selfie stick and suffer the shame of a good Ren head shaking. You can make a goofy face and actually get her approval.
I am 110% certain as soon as the Apple Watch is available, Ren will write something about why you don't need a selfie stick and you should just use your Apple Watch to control your iPhone.
Okay, well that's not on my list yet, but now it will be.
It's an unselfie stick.
I think we had a couple other lens attachments on there.
Yeah, and there's little tripod adapters and all sorts of really cool. Oh, you had the Gorilla Pod, one of my favorites.
Yes, that's like a tripod that you can pretty much put anywhere. It's got little spider legs you can wrap around things, trees, whatever. I think that's what Martin uses to take his...
Depending on the shape of your head, you can kind of put it like right on top of your head and walk around.
It's a face hugger, Peter.
Who needs a GoPro?
Yeah, so that's excellent. Absolutely check that out. What else? There were a couple other things I wanted to touch. Oh, yeah, Becoming Steve Jobs is now out. It launched a couple days ago. I'm working my way through it.
As am I.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Ren, I'm really enjoying it. What I didn't like about the Isaacson book is that it involved Steve Jobs, but it didn't feel like Steve Jobs was really the subject. It was more like a bunch of celestial observations about things that Steve Jobs participated in, but I didn't really get a sense of anything that I cared about. And this is much more. This feels more like by geeks for geeks of geeks.
Yeah, it's personal. It feels like it's speaking to you rather than. I was saying this on MacBreak yesterday. It's the difference between feeling like you're sitting in a cozy sitting room sipping tea with Steve Jobs and hearing about his raunchy, crazy stories, versus being in a giant lecture hall and being like, yes, I'm taking notes on this event in his life and this event in his life, and oh, let's have this speaker up to talk about this special, momentous occasion. It feels personal. I like that. I like that it feels like a fireside chat.
And there's a couple, Andy. I mean, there's some things. Andy brought this up yesterday, where Steve Jobs is just yelling at people inside a room, and then they ask him to leave, and he goes outside, and he's upset to the point where he's crying, and he believes he didn't conduct himself well, so he insists on going in and apologizing, and then he leaves. But then there's negotiations with George Lucas and with carriers and things. where Steve Jobs is like, F you, and they're like, you can't speak to me that way. I'm going to tell my boss, well, F him too. It's like it really paints him as not a tyrant and not a savant, but as a richly textured, multi-layered, fascinating human being. And those, I think, are my favorite stories.
Yeah, I completely agree. I still haven't, I'm still only a couple chapters in, so I feel like we should talk about this again and next week when we finish the book and have a chance to
I agree.
to recap. But
we'll have lots of plane rides to read or listen to it on.
That's true. Ireland. We're going to Renee and Georgia and I are going to Ireland this weekend for Ool.
So if anything happens to the plane, Peter, Ali, just take care of things for us.
Yeah. You guys have been entrusted with the sacred key and the
Basically, I think iMore will be turned into a pool of sheep memes and lolcats and.
How do you say it? Dogs? Is that it?
Doges.
All right. So Peter, any other Mac apps or games we should talk about this week?
Yeah, you should make sure to send the 8-inch floppy disks with the launch codes to me.
You joke about that. So after the Apple II, the next computer I had was a Kokusai Data System 7862 or something, and it used 8.5-inch floppy disks, and I had a plethora of them around the house.
Was that the one that Matthew Broderick used in War Games?
I didn't have a Whopper. That would have been great.
There we go.
No, but I remember those discs. Those could be sushi platters, those discs.
So in terms of games, yes, get your ass to Steam. Go to Steam if you're a Mac user and download Sid Meier's Starships. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun.
He has been so busy.
Yes. Yeah, he has been spreading his creative vision throughout the ecosystem, the gaming ecosystem, and we've got fun stuff to play from him on iOS, fun stuff to play from him on Mac. It doesn't matter what you're into. If you like strategy games, there's a Sid Meier game for you out there that will work on your system. But yeah, Sid Meier Starships is my new crack. It's basically all I do in any spare moment that I have that I can possibly game on my Mac. It's just so much fun. I really strongly recommend it, and I'm going to have a review for you as soon as possible, as soon as I can stop playing it long enough to write something.
Awesome. And do you have any forewarning on Not Safe for Work this week? Anything we should expect?
Not safe for work. No, it's always a crapshoot with me. I have no idea what I'm going to write about for Friday yet.
So someone needs to make you mad and soon.
Exactly. You know what, guys? Piss me off on Twitter. Find me. I'm at Flarg, Flargh. Find something to rile me up so I can write with venomous hatred and rage on Friday. I need that. I need that kick in the pants.
We had Georgia's expert column up this week, and I really like it because she was talking about something that I think is super important, and that was how you can help your kids learn to handle gaming.
Absolutely. And I mean, as somebody who frequently still gets, glued to the screen, I feel like it's really good to set good habits as early as possible and to remember that, gaming is awesome and gaming is so much fun, but there are limits and there are ways to integrate it naturally into your life and not make it take over your life.
Yeah, and it's a real personal story for her because her eldest especially, but both her kids, and they're young children, they're elementary school age, after they would game, they would exhibit, short attention spans, anger, agitation, they'd become rude, and it was not behavior she wanted to encourage, so she created this entire system using, she's a psychotherapist, and she was using typical behavioral tactics where they have charts and rewards and all these things, but it's worked wonders for her family, and hopefully it'll help a lot of other families.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 3 teenage kids, so all my kids are older, but they grew up with the technology, and my wife and I had to invest a lot of time in developing a system that worked, that made sure that the kids understood that they could play games, but as a reward for, other behavior, not something that they could do just in any spare moment they wanted to. Eventually, the kids get to a point where you kind of got to loosen the reins up a little bit and let them do what they want. Teenagers obviously are very different creatures than younger primary school-age kids. But it's always a challenge, and the strategies that are great for one parent don't work for another because of differences in the kids, because of differences in the culture around the house or whatever. So finding that happy medium, finding a system that works for you is always the most important thing.
Yeah, so that's up on iMore now, and the expert column. Last week we had Carolina Milanese talk about what's next for Apple. The stuff in there has just been fantastic. Right?
Did they name the rock band after her?
Yes.
Yes, it's entirely her fault. No, I've been really, really proud about the stuff that we're putting out, both in the experts column and in the network column. Let's see, who did we have last week on that?
Moltz.
We had Moltz. We had
We
John
had Moltz on iMore. I was so outraged and happy.
A long time dream made to fruition.
Yes.
And this week, I believe, I don't want to say it out loud because I think we may jinx him, but we have another Canadian.
Yeah, he mentioned it yesterday, and I said no pressure, but pressure.
Yes, but pressure, because, come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, teasing for Friday, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and again, I'm super happy about it because it lets us kind of share the iMore stage with a lot of really interesting, really cool voices in the community and analysts and a wide range of people. Allie, what's on your do-it-yourself and guide agenda this week?
Oh, I don't know. We're going to have some iPhone 6 guides coming up real soon. Spent my day yesterday, half the day, tearing those apart. So, what else do we have? I might try to come up with some DIY projects too that are not.
You've been working on calendars.
iPhones. What?
You've been working on calendars a lot lately too.
Yeah. So we'll see.
So many things. And then we have photos
So many
coming up,
things.
an Apple Watch coming up, and I don't even want to think about it.
There's a lot. It's April and May are going to be pretty busy for us, I think. April, May, June, July, August. Pretty much busy here on out.
Yeah, I start to feel bad, but then I think about my friends at Apple who don't get to leave their desks for 6 months, and then I feel happy that I can see the outside. So as a programming note, as Fernandy mentioned, we're going to be in Ireland next week at the OL conference. I believe we're sharing a room with the live podcasting facilities, so we might do a show from there. I don't know if it'll be the iMore show specifically, or I might do a combo show because George will be there, Guy English will be there, Dave Wiskus will be there, a bunch of our friends will be there. So we'll figure something out though. We won't leave people completely stranded. In the meantime, if anyone wants to find out more about Allie and all her good works, where can they go, Allie?
I am at iMuggle on all of the social things, and I'm on iMore every day.
What about you, Ren?
I am on iMore, of course, and on the social things at SETTERN, Saturn.
Nice. Peter?
I am also on the social things at Flarg, FLARGH, and on iMore every day.
Awesome. And you can find me at Rene Ritchie. You can find all of us at iMore. You can find this show in iTunes. If you haven't recently, please go there. Please leave a review. Please leave a rating. The people at iTunes Podcasting are amazing, but nothing helps more than for them to see a lot of interest in the show because that encourages them to feature us and it encourages more people to try us, and it's just a really benevolent cycle. We always appreciate your support. We do this show live. We try to do it live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, but schedules have been conspiring against us lately. But we're doing our best to stick to that. If you can't watch us live, again, iTunes, also youtube.com/iMore video to watch the video version of the show. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We have a ton of amazing stuff for you up on iMore. We'll have the best of the stuff we talked about in the show notes, but otherwise, just go to imore.com. There's no reason not to. Just leave a browser open with it in.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Trinity. Thanks, Allie. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
This was fun. Sorry for being sick. I'll hopefully fix that by next week.
Oh, and I want to once again thank lynda.com for sponsoring the show. Lynda is absolutely aces, and I want you to go to lynda.com, lynda.com/iMore. Go there, sign up for your free 10-day trial, and I'm absolutely sure you're going to love it. Thanks, Lynda. All right.